Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and listening into the podcast. And I'm going to say it. I really appreciate you for listening into the podcast. And because you've been such faithful listeners, you helped us get ranked in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. So I want to thank you for that and just give you my appreciation one more time. And I will continue to do so. All right, so now today is a solo episode. I've been doing these more lately, and I want to talk to you about what to do when you're at a crossroads and you want the next step, but your confidence has not quite caught up with it yet. So I'm going to share a story and then a reframe and a simple practice you can use today so you don't leave this episode feeling inspired but still stuck. All right? All right, so let's get into it. So I was at a conference over this past weekend. You know the vibe: sessions, name badges, coffee lines, people scanning the room like, who do I know here? And then those little micro moments where you end up in a conversation that feels random, but isn't. And what surprised me is that I kept hearing the same theme over and over in separate conversations. One woman told me she had written a few articles that she really wanted to publish. Not, I have an idea, not, I'm thinking about writing, but she had them written, and not one, but at least three. They were ready, and yet she had not shared them. She told me her friends and colleagues had been encouraging her for over a year. A year. And as she said it, I could hear something underneath her words. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't laziness. It was that very specific kind of hesitation that high achievers know well. The kind where you can do hard things for everyone else, but when it's your thing, you freeze. There's just something about it where we can do hard things for everyone else, but when it comes to our own thing, sometimes we freeze. And this was the case. So later, a different conversation, a different woman, she told me she wants to apply to graduate school. And when she said it, her whole face changed. Like she was talking about something she really, really wants, genuinely. But then she said she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to handle the work. And here's the part that really got me. She already has a master's degree. So she has evidence, she has proof, and she has a history of showing up, doing the reading, writing the papers, finishing what she started, and still fear. And there were more conversations like that too, not identical stories, but the same emotional pattern: a desire that's real and a fear that feels personal. And each time I found myself saying the same thing in different words. I said things like, it makes sense. Fear is a part of meaningful things. And then I said what was true for me. I said, I understand. I've had fear myself. There were so many times I had to do it while I was afraid. And then I said, almost casually, sometimes you just have to go with your knees knocking. And every time I said that, the response was the same. They laughed and then they exhaled, like I had given them a sentence they didn't know they needed, because it named the thing without shaming it. It said, you're not broken, you're human. You're at the edge of something. And I use that phrase, knees knocking, because it really was something that I experienced years ago, years and years ago, when I first started public speaking. I would stand up in front of an audience, my throat would get dry, and I was so afraid it would feel like my knees were knocking together. Now, whether they actually were or not, it felt like it to me. And then the next time I had to do it, I had to talk myself into, just go ahead and do it. Go with your knees knocking. So that phrase represented the fear that I had been having to just keep going through. And so that was the phrase I used with them. It just came to me and they all laughed. All right. So now let's talk about why this is so common at a career crossroads. Because most high achieving women have learned how to succeed in environments where the rules are relatively clear. You study, you perform, you produce. You get the degree, you get the job, you get the promotion. And then you reach a season where the next step is not obvious. The old success markers don't fit the same way anymore. And now the decision isn't just, can I do this? It's, do I want this? It's, is this aligned with who I am now? And that type of decision requires a different kind of courage because when your next step is connected to who you really are, to your purpose, it comes with visibility. For example, publishing the article isn't just posting words, it's being seen. Applying to grad school isn't just about paperwork and assignments, it's claiming a direction. It's saying, I'm choosing growth. And the moment you choose growth, fear often shows up to argue with you. And fear is persuasive. Fear will pull out your resume and say, all right, now let's review every time you struggled. Or fear will say, what if people judge you? Or fear will say, what if you're not as good as you think you are? And fear would say, what if you start and you can't finish? But, here's the reframe I want you to hold on to. You ready? Okay, here's the reframe. Fear is often a sign you're near something meaningful. I mean, not always, but often, especially for high achieving women. Fear isn't always about danger. It's often about exposure. It's the fear of being seen trying, being seen learning, being seen in process. And that is why some of the most competent, established women you know can still hesitate around the thing that matters to them most. Because it's not about ability, it's about identity. And it's about the inner moment of saying, this is mine. So let me give you a line I want you to borrow. Fear is information. It is not instruction. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Fear is information. It is not instruction. In other words, fear is just giving you some information. It's telling you about what's happening. It's not telling you what to do. It's not instruction. It's telling you what's going on, not what to do. So fear can be present and you can still decide. All right, now let's talk about confidence piece because this is where high achievers get trapped. A lot of women believe the sequence is once I feel confident, I'll act. But that's not how confidence actually works. Most of the time, confidence is not a prerequisite, it's a result. The real sequence is action, then evidence, then confidence. Action, evidence, confidence. So confidence comes from evidence, and evidence comes from movement, which means if you're waiting to feel fully ready before you move, you may end up waiting forever because readiness is not a feeling you receive. It's a capacity you build. And this is why I love the phrase knees knocking because it doesn't demand that you be fearless. It just asks you to be willing. It says, I can be nervous and still go. And that's the mindset shift that changes everything at a career crossroads. You stop asking, how do I eliminate fear? And you start asking, how do I move with the fear present? How do I feel the fear and do it anyway? And that's a different question. And it's the right one. Okay. I said at the beginning that we'll give you something to take away and something that you can actually do. So now we're going to make this practical. I want to give you a simple framework you can remember without even writing it down. It's 3 words: name, shrink, schedule. That's right. Name, shrink, schedule. So if you do these 3 things, you'll leave this episode with a real step, not just a nice idea. All right. First one, name. Name the thing you're postponing, not what you should want, the thing you actually want, the thing that keeps coming back to your mind. Name it. And here's the sentence to do that. You say to yourself, if I'm honest, I keep wanting to, and fill in the blank. If I'm honest, I keep wanting to. So you finish that sentence, fill in that blank. For example, if I'm honest, I keep wanting to publish. If I'm honest, I keep wanting to apply. Listen to this one. If I'm honest, I keep wanting to leave. Or if I'm honest, I keep wanting to start the business. If I'm honest, I keep wanting to pivot. Or even something as simple as, if I'm honest, I keep wanting to have the conversation. So just name it. And when you name it, just notice what rises up in you. Notice how you're feeling. Is it tightness or energy? Is it relief or fear? That reaction is not the problem. The reaction is proof that it matters to you. So that was name. All right, here's the second one. First one, name. Second, shrink. Now, shrink it to the smallest real step, not the full transformation, not the whole plan, just the knees knocking move. I want you to aim for a step that is small enough to do while you're nervous and real enough to count. So it's small enough to do while you're nervous and real enough to count. Here's some examples from the woman I talked about earlier. If it's publishing, choose one article. That's what she could do. She can do one final pass and schedule it. Or she can send it to one of her trusted persons that she knows to review it. Or she can just post the first paragraph as a short piece. That's an example of doing something small enough to do while nervous and real enough to count. I'll give you 2 more examples. Let's say for the woman who was thinking about grad school, make a list of 3 programs. That could be the one thing, or request transcripts, or just draft a rough, messy first paragraph of your statement, or just ask one person for a recommendation. Those are all things she can do, which are small enough to do while nervous and real enough to count. Okay, I'll give you one more example. Let's say it's a career pivot. Schedule one informational interview. That is to say, talk to someone who's doing what you think you might want to do to get some information, but don't have the conversation yet. Just schedule it. That's the one next step. Or in that same scenario, you could update your LinkedIn headline to reflect the direction you're leaning. Just one step. Or write down your non negotiables or your next chapter. So these are all examples of doing something that's small enough to do while you're nervous and real enough to count. And I want to say this clearly because high achievers love to overcomplicate steps. Ask me how I know. It takes one to know one. All right, so here's what I want to say. The step does not need to be impressive. It just needs to be true to you. It just needs to feel true to you, feel right, feel honest. Okay? So we had number 1, which was name. Remember, name. Number 2 was shrink. And now number 3, schedule. Now schedule that one thing you're going to do. Schedule it within the next 72 hours. Put it on your calendar. Choose a time. Because if you don't and you just say, oh, I'll do it soon, it somehow slips away and will quietly stall. So just pick a day, pick a time, and decide you're going to do it, even if your confidence hasn't caught up yet. That's what we're doing here. We're building evidence. All right, now here's a quick reality check. Sometimes the moment you schedule the step, fear gets louder, and that's normal. Your nervous system doesn't always interpret growth as good. It interprets growth as unknown. So when fear spikes, don't treat it as a sign you chose wrong. Treat it as a sign you chose something that really matters to you. It's important. So here's a sentence you can use in the moment. And it's almost like you're talking to fear. You can say, hey, or those thoughts. Hey, thank you. I know you're trying to protect me, and I'm going anyway. You don't have to debate fear. You don't have to defeat it. You acknowledge it and you move. That's knees knocking. And over time, that becomes self trust because self trust isn't built by thinking, it's built by keeping promises to yourself, even small ones, especially small ones. Okay, so here's what I want to leave you with today. If you're at a career crossroads and you feel that quiet pull towards something meaningful and fear is sitting right next to it, that does not mean you're doing it wrong. It may actually mean you're getting closer to something real. You don't have to wait until you feel fearless, and you don't have to wait until you feel perfectly confident. You can go with your knees knocking. Before you move on with your day, just take a moment and ask yourself, what is one step I know I need to take, even if my confidence hasn't caught up yet? And remember the simple practice: name it, shrink it, schedule it. Name it, shrink it, schedule it. One small step in the next 72 hours, nothing dramatic, just honest forward motion. And if you want, I'd love to hear what your knees knocking step is. You can message me on LinkedIn or reply wherever you're listening and simply tell me the step you chose. Sometimes naming it out loud is part of how we make it real. And if you're in a season where you're craving clarity, direction, and a decision that really feels true to you, you are exactly who I create this work for. So stay close. I'm going to keep giving you simple, grounded ways to move forward, one aligned step at a time. Okay? All right, everyone. Take care of yourself. Go with your knees knocking. And whatever is holding you back, go gently. Go gently and go with your knees knocking. Until next time, this is Dr. Robin.